what they can do for us to help us and whatever.
Well, thanks, Bill. I'll try to keep it interesting. I know shoes is an interesting topic to a lot of people. It happens to be my favorite. But if I can keep it of interest to you and keep you engaged, hopefully we'll learn something. And if it's something you already know, just bear with me. So to give you an idea, I understand, you know, I own Lucky Road. We're one of the many stores in the area that you can get shoes from. I'd be more than happy to name them all, but I'm not going to do that. But there are a lot of places in town that you can get shoes from. So the information I'd like to provide for you today is that wherever you choose to get shoes, here's some things you just want to know. Now, the first thing I want to ask you all is, can you think of the 3 top reasons people use to choose their running shoes? Think about the shoes that are on your feet right now. And think about general public. What are the 3 main factors that people consider when they choose a running shoe?
They look good.
Fashion.
Look good.
They look good. The color. What else?
Comfort.
The comfort, the performance.
Price.
The price.
Yeah.
Okay, believe it or not, we've blurted them all out. So here's the thing. Most people would think, wow, the comfort, the performance, things like that. No, actually, the majority of us, we pick our shoes based on the price, the popularity of the brand name, and the style or color of the shoe. Those are the 3 main reasons people pick for their footwear. Now think about this, you all are athletes, okay? If I understand correctly, this is the elite 10K training team, is that right?
Advanced.
Okay, you're athletes. You're out there every day working hard, trying to perform, you're trying to get better. You want to get a PR at the next race. How does the price or the color of a shoe allow you to run injury-free or allow you to perform at your best? It doesn't. So what I'm getting at is that I think that the reasons that we're using to pick our footwear may not necessarily be aligned with what's in our best interest. So, forgive me, I'm going to do something I yell at other people for. You're always supposed to untie your shoes and then toe off. Just before heel strike, the foot will invert about 4 degrees and hit the outside edge of the shoe. So it's very normal to see wear along the outside edge of the shoe. A lot of people come in, they're like, Jeff, there's something wrong with me. I'm not getting even wear on my shoes, I'm on the outside edge. Like, well, put your mind at ease, that's actually normal. Once the foot strikes the ground, however, it's necessary that it roll inwards. This motion is what we call pronation. It's about as simple as I can explain it. Pronation is the foot's natural mechanism of shock disbursement. Without it, we just hit the ground, shock goes up the leg, and that's not good. We want the foot to hit and roll. But we want pronation to occur to a neutral position where the heel straight up and down, the arch is stabilized, and the foot propels off the ground evenly. That's a neutral gait. That's what we want to see happen. And believe it or not, about 65–70% of us do that. Okay, so the majority of us have a neutral gait. Now, it doesn't matter who makes it, what it looks like, what it costs, any of that stuff. What matters is somebody with a neutral range of motion is better served in the neutral category of footwear. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, there is another category known as stability or support or control. Those are shoes that typically have some type of a device on the medial or medial longitudinal arch side of the shoe to help prevent excess motion. So what happens in that case is about 30–35% of people who run still hit the outside edge of the shoe. They pronate to a neutral position, but they don't stop. For some reason, they cause the shoe to collapse a little bit more inwards, or they over-pronate the shoe, in which case those devices are there to help stabilize and guide that foot through a much more neutral range of motion. Does that make sense? Any questions on that before I move to the next topic? Okay. How should a shoe fit? Any thoughts on that? Hands? No? Yes?
Size too big?
Size too big. Okay, but what happens if the shoe's too big?
You can slip out.
Yeah, so there is such a thing as having a shoe that's too big. So our suggestion is, and it also depends because we're going to fit a high school miler differently than we're going to fit a middle-aged marathoner. The needs are different. But for the most of us in general, what we're looking for is a shoe with a snug fitted heel, a little bit of room at the toe so that the foot has room to expand and contract properly without banging the end of the shoe, gently touching on the 1st and the 5th metatarsal head, a nice even parallel look to the lacing system, and when you press on the top, you want it to move a little bit, okay? So what we suggest is when you're putting your shoes on, take a second, tap the heel back, okay? Tap the heel back to the shoe, then secure the laces so you get that nice snug fit. That way you can have a little bit of space up here, but you won't slide back and forth in the shoe. Now, what's the cardinal sin that I just broke this morning?
Shoelaces.
I took the shoes off without untying them. How many like to do that? All right. Well, here's your stern lecture for the day. Stop that. The reason why is if you take a second to tap the heel back, tie the shoes down, get that snug fit so that the shoe acts as a part of you. It's not some box that you hit the ground and you're starting to slide around in. But if you take the time to get that snug fit, and then force your foot out of the shoe, it actually damages the upper. The upper stretches down much more, or stretches out much more quickly, which means the shoe breaks down faster. Now that works to my advantage because it helps my bank account when you buy your shoes more frequently. But if you want your shoes to last longer, take care of them. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, any questions on how a shoe should fit? No? All right, we're moving along. Third and final topic, how do you know when it needs to be replaced? Any thoughts on that? Everybody just wants to get running, don't you? All right.
Mileage.
So a number of things we can keep track of. One is you can keep track of mileage. The average shoe lasts roughly 300 to 500 miles. I've met people that get 1,000 miles out of their shoes, and they look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them, well, the average is 400 miles. And then I've met other people like me. As I've gotten older and fatter and slower, I break my shoes down faster than I did when I was younger and faster. Now, what's that?
You weren't lighter then?
Yeah, considerably. So we can keep track of mileage. You can also keep track of time. I know the average American runner, now you all are putting in considerably more miles than what's considered average, but the average American runner is going to put in about 400 miles every 6 months. So you can keep track of time on a shoe. You can also keep track of the appearance of a shoe. So if we start to get excessive wear, obviously normal wear is on the lateral aspect of the heel and somewhere across the forefoot. And when it gets to a point that it's excessive and this is wearing really thin or even worked its way up into the midsole material, that's an indication that the shoe might need to be replaced. If you start to show compression within the midsole to a point that it's not responding anymore, that's an indication that it may need to be replaced. When you get to a point where no matter what you do, you can't get that snug fit in the heel and you're sliding around in the shoe and it's just way too easy to take off without untying it, that's an indication that the upper has stretched out to a point that's not holding your foot stable on the platform. But here's the bottom line. The single most important factor to consider when you're purchasing a shoe and when you feel it might need to be replaced is your perception of comfort. Okay? It does not matter what a manufacturer tells you a shoe can do. It doesn't matter what I tell you a shoe can do. It matters what you think of it. So if you have a higher perception rate of comfort in a shoe, you will have a much lower perception rate of injury. Okay? I blogged about this a few years ago, and I still find it very funny because it's self-deprecating humor. But when I first started in this business almost 30 years ago, a lady came to see me by the name of Ann Green. Ann, at the time, had the most severe degree of excess motion I'd ever seen of anybody. All my training at the time told me she needed the most supportive shoe, most severe degree of support on a shoe that you could possibly get. So on a spectrum of things, we've got shoes with the most severe degree of support, and then shoes that are really light, flexible, almost not like racing flat type shoes. Well, tried Ann on all the motion control shoes I could find. She hated them. They were uncomfortable to her. So I kept compromising the degree of support in the shoes. Every single shoe we tried, she did not like, until we ended up on the far end of the extreme over here in a very lightweight, flexible trainer known as the Adidas Gazelle. Now, I watched her in the shoe. This is not a shoe I would ever have recommended to her, but that's what she thought was the most comfortable shoe. That's what allowed her to run pain-free. Now, the silly part of it is a few months later, I was working a race at Quantico Marine Corps base, and I saw a group of runners go by, and if you were in this industry, you would understand why I'm always looking at people's feet when they run. It got me in trouble with Desiree when we first started dating. She smacked me. I see you looking at her. I'm like, no, I'm looking at her feet, I swear. But I watched this group of runners go by, and I watched this one runner go by, and it had the most severe degree of excess motion. I thought to myself, oh my God, that poor woman. Whoever sold her those shoes doesn't know the first thing about how to fit running shoes. And when I looked up, it was Ann. I was the idiot. Okay, so it's all about perception. Okay, so don't allow yourself to get pigeonholed into these things that Runner's World might tell you. If you have a high, medium, or low arch, you belong in this category. You know, just use your own intelligence, okay? Do your own research. Test the shoes out. Go with what feels best to you. That's where you're probably gonna have your most success. All right, well, hopefully that all makes sense. Hopefully that's helpful to you. And if you all have any questions, let me know, okay? Thanks for giving me an opportunity to come talk to you.
Hey, one quick note, we'll be done before they start, but there'll be a watch party here on the big screen for the Olympic trials this afternoon. I think it starts 11 or something like that, 11:30.